John, we obviously saw some pretty strong comments from the Giants yesterday, labelling you guys as a bit smug heading into this week's game. What did you make of them, and you must be looking forward to this week's match?
I wasn't so much focused on the comments. I did read them, but I've been a bit more focused on Toby Green, Stephen Caniglio and Sam Taylor coming back in the team. I've sort of that's where my energies have been directed, because this is a team that last week defeated last year's grand finalist by 9 goals and had those 3 guys out. So I've been sort of looking at their team and those 3, if they're fit, you'd imagine, come straight back in, and what that looks like in the team sense, and how good they're playing. They're playing super footy. We were able to play them out here in a practice game early in the season, but they're a great team at the moment, and they've got some young players that have come in and done a great job. So I've sort of been looking at that and trying to move our magnets around as well.
Second v third should be a sellout at the SCG. I mean, Sydney derbies don't really get much bigger than this in the season.
Yeah, it's terrific for the code up here. It's the most competitive sporting market in the world, and I've been on record a number of times saying that. But if you look at all the professional sporting clubs up in this market, there's no more competitive market than this in the world. And to be able to have 2 teams that have, over the years, we've been able to play finals against each other, and I think that's been a real credit. There's obviously a lot of cross-pollination with staff, and so that's common from both teams' perspective, and to be able to play in what we expect to be a sellout crowd, or hope to be a sellout crowd, is a great thing for both clubs, and a great thing for the code up here. It's terrific to be able to do it.
Just back to the assessment that your group might be a bit smug from the Giants. What did you make of those comments? Will there be a bit of extra feeling in this game than usual?
Because of that?
Potentially.
I've got other things on my mind, to be honest. I mean, I'm looking at what they do well. Their speed, their ability to intercept mark. They've got a reasonable player in Jesse Hogan. I'm looking at that. I mean, you'd have to ask him in a bit more detail what that was about, but I'm not focused on that. I'm looking at the game itself and excited about that.
John, we've got a guy over there on camera, Leon, who knows a little bit about this derby, having been on the other side. How's that been, having a guy who really knows how the Giants tick ahead of this derby?
He hasn't said anything yet, so I don't know. I'll have to ask him. He actually hasn't given me anything yet, so it's a good point. Maybe I should go and ask him. But we haven't actually sat down and gone through the details. We obviously know the Giants well, and they know us well. I think that we've also got Mark McVeigh, and they've got some staff members from us. But I think in the end, both teams know each other pretty well as far as how they play the individuals on both teams. Because you play each other a fair bit. We're lucky to have that other club up here in the Sydney market to be able to play during pre-seasons, and our VFL teams play each other a lot, which is terrific. So we actually know each other pretty well, but that doesn't mean that any team's got an advantage or disadvantage. It just goes into the game with, we'll see what we get, and knowing full well from my perspective how much respect I've got for that team, and I think just Leon would just reinforce that, how good their players are. So that's why it's going to be a ripping game.
There have been media reports about Sam Wicks and tension within the team. We're just interested, what are your thoughts on those media reports?
I was disappointed the club was disappointed in the report from a long-time football journalist. In the end, Chad Warner kicked the goal in similar circumstances, and no one got around him. So we've been focused on celebrating the players that caused the goal rather than the outcome. We're talking about our processes all the time and concentrating on our process, and I think that's been holding us in good stead. So I just think that looking at that one isolated incident was a bit unfair.
Can you categorically say that there is no tension between Sam and the rest of the team?
All I can say with Sam is I think that it's going okay. If you look at how Sam's going, he's played a valuable role in our team the last couple of weeks, and I think from the team's perspective, we dealt with that a month ago, and we've all moved on, and I think that's fairly obvious to most people.
Is the issue still lingering at all? Do you need to manage it at all from time to time between maybe just 1 or 2 players?
We've all moved on. It was a month ago. We've focused on the Giants this week, and it's a reasonable focus when you consider that a big game this week, and we've got other things to get our minds into.
Luke Parker, does he come straight back in this week after his VFL game?
We've got Parks and Ramps that we'll see how the training goes this week, and we'll see. We've got a couple of blokes that we need to get through the week as far as how they pulled up. We've got a 6-day break, obviously, so hopefully those guys pull up okay and are feeling good this week. But we'll see how Parks and Ramps go later in the week. They'll have a run around today. Hopefully get going and feel good. I think that Parks has pulled up okay. They'll have another session today, but the important one will be on Thursday. And then we'll sit down Thursday after training and pick the team, hoping that those two are available.
He's obviously a great player, but did it surprise you how many touches he got in his first game back for the season at the VFL level?
No.
5 Brett Kirk medals. Does that come into it when you think about it? His achievements in this game?
He's a very, very good player, and we know that. He had he would have played a fair bit of the season, you would suggest, if he hadn't got that injury. So he's a quality player. We've just got to make sure we've set him up for the season. And it's about this week. We want to win this week. It's about the season. And we know he can play. The good thing is he's been able to keep running. So he's been able to... He had a bit of time off when he had the operation. But the good thing is he's been able to keep running. He plays a combative style. That's the only way he knows about it. We'll look at that, look at the weather this week and see how he feels and have a chat to him later in the week.
We got 3 goals from Isaac Heeney. Is there any level he can go even higher for you, or is it just keeping this consistency?
I think the real challenge in playing AFL footy is just keeping... If you're playing at a high level every week, that's a real challenge. And if you're able to just keep doing that, and I said after the game that we've been highlighting how much of a team role he's been playing behind closed doors. His work rate back, his work rate to help other players and look better, his work rate to be a good teammate has been the stuff that we're looking at. Clearly he's playing well, but he's doing on the back of a foundation of really looking after his team and doing some team-orientated acts every week. And that's why we're so respectful of what he's doing. So it's not going to get any easier. If you look at their midfield this week, I mean, they're in red-hot form. Their midfield's as good as any going around. Talent everywhere. They're working really hard. They've got a great system. And so it's going to be a real challenge to win that midfield battle for both teams this week.
And looking at the season, all sides have played 7 games. I guess, what's your assessment of your team, I guess, this point into the season?
I don't really sit there and assess too much as far as the first block. I'm sort of look at what happened that last week and some things that we did well, and we did a few things well, but we've still got some areas to improve. And then my focus this week is on the Giants, and so that's we usually don't get to that stage until probably the halfway point of the year. But at the moment, I'm just looking at what the Giants do because of the form they're in. As I said before, 9-goal victors last week over last year's grand finalists. They're with 3 or 4 of their best players out, so you can't help but respect that.
You started the season with Mills, Parker and Adams all out. You've chucked Heeney into playing full-time mid. Since then, probably leading the Brownlow vote, arguably been the best player in the comp. How much has his form playing as mostly a pure mid changed what your plan was with him to stay there, particularly with those 3 starting to come back?
Well, we planned over the pre-season to play him there for a fair bit of the year. We did that a couple of years ago as well. Look, he's one important part of our team. He's clearly playing good footy. We'll make adjustments if necessary when we need to. But at the moment, I think he's going all right where he's playing, and one would assume he's going to play hopefully a bit of footy there and continue along. But we understand that that standard that he's playing at the moment is not an easy one, but it's easier when you have the focus that he has, which is helping his teammates be better, and those things tend to look after themselves. And I'm just enjoying coaching him at the moment. I've always enjoyed coaching him. He's a real pro, but he's getting some reward for what he's doing now with his efforts, which is terrific.
They're first in scores from intercepts, second in scores from stoppages. Obviously, it's very easy to get bogged down with star players and play midfield, but getting career years out of guys like Bedford, Riccardi, Brown, Finn Callahan looks like he's gone to another level. How difficult is it to sort of plan for a team like this where you're like, all right, we've got Tom Green, we've got Lockie Whitfield, we've got to stop these guys, but when you look at the guys around them, they're contributing to some of these sort of key stats about scores from turnovers, scores from stoppages.
Yeah, they don't have a bad player at the moment. There's no question, and so I think about that a lot. Sometimes a bit too much, and sometimes you've got to pull back from that because you do. You know, if you sit back and look at their stats, and both teams' stats probably in some areas have been pretty similar, but their form has been outstanding. Their depth has been outstanding, and it's not just one player doing it. And you know, hopefully it's a bit similar to us. It's as far as you know, when you've been competitive and you want to keep being competitive. Both teams, it's about a weight of numbers philosophy. It's about your whole team contributing, and often it's about the players that aren't in the headlines that are playing consistent footy that makes a big difference. And I'm sure Giants are the same with us, that's what you want. You want a big even contribution from all of your players. That's why they're hard to plan against, and hopefully, you know, that's what our players will try and do, is have a consistent performance this week.
Braden Campbell's been the sub for a couple of weeks in a row now. Does it come into your consideration about trying to get him a few more minutes, whether it's
It does.
or the VFL?
Yeah, it does. I'd like to be able to play him. I'd love to be able to play him at senior level. And so he was a little bit quiet for a couple of weeks, but we know he can be really a flexible player, so he's able to go a couple of different roles, which is what we love about him. That's part of the discussions we'll have this week as well. We'd like to get him some more game time.
And just on Will Hayward, he copped a little bit of a knock. Obviously, was able to play out the game. How is he one of those guys who you're just waiting on seeing?
Yeah. We hopefully he's okay. There's a couple of those guys that won't do a lot today at training. They'll just have a jog, but we're confident that they'll be able to prepare, and you know, we'll know more Thursday about what the squad looks like. Obviously, off a 6-day break, see how they feel, see how they pull up. But we'll manage them. They'll be right, and we'll pick the players that we know can run out the game against a pretty fit, rested Giants team.